So today I'd like to talk about one of my favorite Christmas stories. It's the original Story of Santa Claus by Robert Thomas Stout, and it had some of the most beautiful illustrations, and I remember it from when I was a little kid, and it's been around for about 30 years now, so it's not that much of a classic for a lot of people, but it was one of those things I remember from when I was a little kid. And one of the things that I love the very most about it is that it just has these extra beautiful illustrations, like the picture of Santa Claus before he was Santa Claus, back when he was a science teacher, and the picture of Mrs Claus when she was making all of the little doll clothes and the dolls for the little children when she was taking those to them. And it's got this really beautiful picture of Santa Claus and Mrs Claus when Santa Claus proposed to her, which is just extra beautiful. And there's this great picture that I always felt had a lot of feeling to it that I loved, and I remember showing to my little brothers and sisters, of this horrible bad guy that just wanted to take all of the kindness out of the world, who was named Candle Snuffer, who steals your pens and pencils. And I loved watching how much he was tortured throughout the story and all of the illustrations. It has a really great theme in it that talks about how it's just so much better to give if you don't let someone know that you're the one who's giving something to them. And it talks about how Santa Claus has to go through all of this fight with Candle Snuffer in order to try and get the children to have their toys, and how caring he is to animals, how caring he is to everybody throughout all of the trials that he goes through. And it also shows how Candle Snuffer ends up getting punished. And it also tells you lots of different things about the science of Santa Claus and how it is that he makes reindeer fly. And it talks about how it is that he can live at the North Pole, even though we all think it would be extra very cold there and not able to sustain life. It talks about how he got a lot of the people that he has help him make toys, how they got to know him and he got to befriend them. It talks about how the reindeer even evolved to be better capable of flying. And it has a great little picture of Christmas Town. And it has this great way where this kind of comic book style that it does with the lettering, and how it puts some of the letterings into the pictures. And I remember when I was a little kid, that's the way that I would read this story, is that I would read just the words that were at the pictures, because it just reads like a comic book that way. And you can almost tell the story by just reading the pictures with their little words that are with them. The title of the book is The Original Story of Santa Claus, and it's by Robert Thomas Stout, and I thought it was really neat that Robert Thomas Stout is the one who did the illustrations as well as wrote the story, which does make me actually think about maybe looking up some of his other stories. It does have a list of a lot of the different stories that are available on the back of this book, and also where it is that you can find it, which is very interesting. During the story, it says that this magical place that Santa Claus found at the North Pole is at Meridian, Idaho 83642, and that actually is where they would like you to send your requests for the book on the back of the book, which is really cute. It says that that's where Santa Claus is. It has a picture of his little mailbox in Meridian, Idaho. I do feel like I should share this little part about charitude and what charitude is, because that's a main theme throughout the story. At the end of the story, it has this great little thing where it says, "Into every home where parents love enough to want to give good gifts without credit or thanks, Santa is sure to come." Which I know that I read when I was a little kid, and it just means something different when you're a little kid than it does when you're grown up. So the main thing the reason why it is that they say that you should give without having someone know that you're the one that's giving to them is so that they can't thank you, so that you can be giving without thanks. And it talks about in this book that the name Santa comes from a Claus family motto. It says it's called Serve, Always, Never, Thanks Asking, which is SANTA, Santa for short. One of the other things that's included in this book that isn't in a lot of other Christmas books is it does talk about Christ, came to earth and grew up and taught all people to live by charity and gratitude and many other things. And they talk about how it is that charitude actually came from Jesus, and how that is why it is that it's so important that Santa Claus give without being able to make it so people can thank him. What's the Christmas story that you remember the most? What's your favorite Christmas story?